My name is Elaine Frazier, and I'd like to invite our Provost and Vice President, I think is your title, is it? Okay, our Provost, Dr. Fadi Deek, who will present some words of welcome for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, visitors. Good morning, students. Good morning, colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. All right, okay, very good. It's my pleasure to welcome the visitors to our campus, and it's exciting to see how many of our students are in the audience. Our students, I think, know me. My colleagues, of course, know me, but for those who are visitors here, I'm the university provost, and that means that I am the chief academic officer at NJIT, and I am very pleased to be here at the 4th annual business conference to greet you. As you already know from the brochure that you have, the theme of the conference is the Transforming Horizon, a flat world perspective for business today. Not sure that our students know what the reference is. We are not changing anything about what we taught you in physics. This is in reference to a book written by Thomas Friedman in 2005, where he described how our world is becoming so interconnected, economically, politically, socially, and culturally, and in so many other ways, implying that intellectual capital, you and people like you, can now be accessed and leveraged virtually anywhere and by anybody. And Friedman's book received attention very, very quickly, especially in government and business, and also became a required reading on many college campuses. So perhaps some of you, our students, may have already had that as an assignment in a social science class. We also at NJIT recognized that the global challenges for businesses, for industry, but also in many other domains will require that we tailor our education for our students with that in mind. Preparing our students to work in this new flat world will be very different than how I was prepared and our colleagues were prepared when we went to school many, many decades ago. The intellectual and the technical capabilities that you have to have are very different. For example, students, as you already know from courses that you've taken, that current communication technologies allow you to do things very differently. Online courses. Such technologies also allow industry to do things very differently. They can compete with each other. For example, manufacturing, as we know, in America competes with manufacturing in Asia, with manufacturing in South America, and many other places, indicating that indeed there is no advantage to location. And you know this from your learning experiences. And thus, more and more companies have then shifted how they do business from a very local market or a regional and national market into a global market. And they are looking for people like you, our students, who will be able to work at these companies and understand the problems that they have to solve from this very global perspective. So in a flat world, our graduates and our students must have skills, but also attitude that allows them to work across the globe and anywhere they seek and receive a job. That is the goal for you, and our students should know this. That is the goal for entering students, and our strategic plan, which we call a 2020 vision at the university, makes note of this and describes what we call milestone experiences that will prepare you to be that global workforce. Milestone experiences, for example, some of you are familiar with undergraduate research. Some of you are familiar with co-op internship. We also want you to be familiar with international exchanges. You need to go out, you need to work and learn side by side with people who are different from you. So we say that our curricula will equip our students to solve multidisciplinary problems. You will have a very wide horizon, precisely as this conference will be discussing today. You will gain skills necessary for you to solve complex problems. You will need experiences in worlds very different than the one you know. You will need to speak languages other than the one that you currently speak. You will be required to work and collaborate with people of different cultures. And your curricula at NJIT have already prepared you to do this and will continue to prepare you to do this even better. So this training that we will provide our students will allow you to have the transition, a seamless transition from our classroom to the world that we have described as being flat, to the global world. So I am grateful that the School of Management at NJIT is already ahead of the curve, and grateful to have our visitors from industry here to help us further sharpen and define this curriculum that I just talked about. And I would like to express my sincere appreciation for my colleagues in the School of Management for their forward thinking and for organizing this very exciting event. Have a great day, and thank you very much for inviting me to welcome you.
Thank you, Fadi. And now I would like to introduce our interim dean, Dr. Reggie Caudill, who will give us a conference introduction. Thank you, Reggie.
I also want to say welcome to all of our students and our guests here today. This is just absolutely a fantastic event. As you can see through the agenda for the schedule for this conference, there's going to be discussions from various perspectives that all revolve around business, the future, the flat world, and the fast world, right, that we're living in. Before I get started, I would like to just recognize Elaine for her tremendous effort in organizing this conference. So if you'd all just give a round of applause to Elaine. As the provost just indicated, the world is flat. Thomas Friedman is one of these unique authors that brings together complex issues and tries to describe them in ways that we can all understand. He goes on to say not only is the world flat, the global playing field is available to everyone. 3 billion people have been brought into this playing field that had never existed in the field before because of the technologies that are available globally. But it's also changed fundamental business practices to take advantage of this new infrastructure. That book was written in 2005, almost a decade ago, okay, laying out these issues. And they're still relevant today. I mean, I think that's one of the unique things about the technologies that were just beginning to be prevalent a decade ago, and the impacts that they're having is just totally changing not only what we do on our daily lives, but where we will work and the things that we will be doing into the future. Just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, Friedman also talked about other changes that are taking place that are accelerating the impacts of this flat world. And then some of the ramifications of that are that we're changing actually climates and ecosystems around the world. The world is flat, the world is fast, but Mother Nature is upset and letting us know about it. So these are implications that we deal with not only today, but through your entire professional lives, your students will be dealing with these issues. Changes that are taking place, that are accelerating. Moore's Law, right? How that impacts the speed with which changes are taking place in the digital world. The ecological destabilization of our natural ecosystem, deforestation, and other issues from an environmental point of view. And then this flat playing field, the geoeconomic markets, and how that impacts societies and political issues kind of across the globe. Those are issues that we face. It was interesting in this article that was written by Friedman just a couple of weeks ago, where he identified some really key fixes that may help us to deal with these changes in the future. And I've listed them here on the slide and highlighted in yellow some of these things that directly here at NJIT and this conference in some ways we'll be dealing with today. Resilient infrastructure. That infrastructure is not only the buildings and the way that we respond to emergencies, but also is the infrastructure for business. Supply chains must be resilient. Okay? Transportation systems must be resilient. So those are issues from resiliency. Affordable health care, right? That impacts the world. Startup companies, lifelong learning opportunities that the provost was just referring to and how important that is in creating jobs of the future. Sustainable environments, manageable debt from the economic side. So the School of Management deals with many of these issues. This university deals with more in complex and integrated ways as well. But we have to not only recognize these challenges, we have to adapt to these challenges and step up and meet these challenges. And that's what we refer to now as the new climate economy. Bottom line is that the sustainability of our business world is changing and changing rapidly, and it's accelerating. And this dynamics plays a critical role in how we do business, even to the basic level of dealing with questions of survivability of the way that we've done business in the past. So we have to change and adapt. This idea of sustainability is one that is probably a word that itself has been used more frequently in the last decade and understood less than probably any other word in the vocabulary, right? What do we mean by sustainability? Well, you can go back to the mid-1980s to get a definition of sustainability from the United Nations work that was done. Okay? The Brundtland Commission looked at sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. But that's kind of philosophical, difficult to deal with. How do you make a business decision based on that definition? Very difficult. So we have to put this idea of sustainability into the context of the business world. Okay? So we have three dimensions to sustainability: the economic dimension, the environmental dimension, and the social, political dimension. Okay? In the corporate world, that means profitability and shareholder value is the economic dimension. Environmental responsibility is the environmental dimension. Corporate social responsibility then becomes the social dimension. So we need to begin to take these ideas, but then begin to focus on what they really mean in ways that we can begin to measure, because without measure you can't manage, right? So that's one of the things that we need to continue to deal with. So corporate sustainability then really does reflect the core values of corporations and the strategies that they implement. And the focus has to be long-term profitability. At the same time, there has to be a commitment to the environmental and social responsibilities that the business world is at the core. So one way to look at it is to ask the question kind of in a reverse way. It is important to improve energy efficiency and to use our resources wisely. That's extremely important. But the real question is, does business generate sufficient value to justify these kind of impacts? Because we have to link value generated by the business into the environmental and social aspects. So we have to be asking kind of different questions than we have in the past. Okay? So this is, as those of you will become the students who will take courses and deal with new management techniques and the strategies associated with managing wisely, there's an idea called the balanced scorecard and strategy mapping that's used in many management courses. Okay? It started out being that businesses were only interested in the financial consequences. And then business began to think about what happens inside the company itself. What are the activities that take place, those processes, and then how do we focus on our customer? How do we build the infrastructure inside the company to be successful and to be efficient and effective? Employee empowerment. But what we've done here is to put another perspective for companies, and that perspective is the sustainability perspective. And by doing that, we can actually map strategies that change the way businesses operate, the way businesses deal with their customer, and at the same time then relate all the way up to the corporate strategies and the shareholder value that's created by these changes. We've got to embed these techniques in the day-to-day business decision-making if it's going to have a major impact. Right? It can't just be an afterthought. So the conference today is going to deal with many economic issues associated with business and sustainability concerns. We're going to be talking about the way in which the economy is changing and what's happening here in this region. That all relates to fundamental ideas of how business then is changing as we move into the future. With that, Elaine, I appreciate everyone being here and thank you very much for the day.
Thank you, Reggie, for that very comprehensive look at our event today. And I thought I would tell you a bit about our conference. And we've done it for 4 years now. The idea is to focus on connecting to evolving business and political environments. And this is our school's signature event. And I think it's also important to recognize the work of so many people who helped put this event together. I want to acknowledge, first of all, some colleagues from Rutgers University, Farouk Landana and Sharon Leiden from Rutgers. Thank you for coming today. And we have Mike Yakubov, am I pronouncing that correctly? From William Patterson University. Thank you. And now I'd like to acknowledge those in our really awesome network. Dolores Atalo, who's a Rutgers alum, by the way. She introduced me to Maureen Nevin Duffy, who's on the panel, and Amir Robertson, who's here, right here, as well. And just to name a couple of people that are associated with the conference. Gilbert Gachelian, I recognize your photo, Gilbert, and Ashish Parmar, who will be serving on a panel with Katya Passerini, who's here. Thank you, Katya. And thanks to the faculty who are inviting their students to come to make this a successful day. And I really appreciate that. And some of our faculty are here. Shanti Gopalakrishnan, who's here, Jack Wagner, and Ellen Thomas. And our Associate Dean, Lisa Axe, is here, and Professor Shekna Silla, and Cesar Bandera. I thought I saw Homer Bonicis. There he is, Homer. And did I overlook anyone? Wayne Fox? Just acknowledge everybody. Jim Shorn, who's on the panel as well. Thank you. And Anthony Arismendi, one of our alums who will be helping to shepherd the day along. Alan Wink, did I mention Alan's name already? I did not. And again, thanks to everybody who made this a very successful event.